Hello, hello, this is Paper Cuts Included coming to you live from the Ninja Turtle sleeping blanket, and that's how we keep it legit. Today's video is one I've been looking forward to for a while. This book I got as a Christmas gift, and I've been wanting to talk about it. It could have been in a pickup video, but I wanted to save it for a deeper dive. However, if you're new to the channel, this is a comic book YouTube channel ran by me and my co-host. We're both working artists in the field, and we just want to talk about what we love. And what's that? Comic books. So we'll look at books like this Frank Frazetta book. We'll talk about who Frank Frazetta is. We'll talk about what's in the book. We look at comic books a lot. This is not a comic book, but comic related, But no, we'll talk about the artist, the art, the history of the book, the history of the artist, the art, the book's influence, all that fun stuff. So if that sounds like something you're into, we'll hit that bell, hit that notification, subscription, and watch the end. If you watch the end, it really helps us out. It pushes these videos out to more and more people who like this type of content. And I'd like to thank everyone this is their first video, doing it the shooter way. But without further ado, let's get into it. And what do I have here? I have here Frank Frazetta Book 2. It is a series of books which just have Frank Frazetta artwork. Really good scans, really good pieces, just phenomenal. I didn't know these books existed. At first, me and my friend were at a comic book store. I was gonna put it back because it had the price tag of $30 on it, which is a lot for me on one book right now. I'm saving up for a trip to Japan this summer, so I can't justify really spending more than $10 is pushing it for me on a single book. So I there's no way I could get a $30 book. However, my friend got it for me as a Christmas gift, so I can't thank him enough. And I guess you guys can't thank him enough because now we're going to talk about it. So let's get right into it. Let me move this mic over here. I'm trying to be more conscious about the audio quality of the channel. I'm no audio person, so if you have any tips or tricks, let me know in the comments. Well, let's get into it. Who is Frank Frazetta, first of all? Frank Frazetta is a phenomenal artist. The comic industry, illustration industry, probably would not be where it's at if it was not for him. Let's cut to the first, or let's just cut to the first painting. He Old school artist, old school illustrator, dipped his toes into the comic game, did not work good for him at all. He tried, did newspaper stuff, and then, however, where he, got a steak and eggs, as people would say, was book posters, or not book posters, book cover designs, poster designs, album art, stuff like that. He made, I forget what this, I think it just might have been just one Conan cover. He made in an afternoon what he would have made in a year of doing his newspaper gig. So he immediately switched that. Most of these are oil paintings. I can't really tell the difference between oil and water, but he's a primarily oil painter. Very influential, very old school, died in 2010, but very, very, very influential. Some of his most acclaimed works are Conan, Tarzan, a lot of other stuff. We'll get to it while we scan these. Very influential, like I said. I've had professors in art school directly contribute them to becoming artists who sing Frank Frazetta pieces in the 80s, which is probably his golden age for fans, I would say. That's when probably a lot of people were able to see his work. His work was getting made more and more, and he had a name attached to it. And what's so good about him? Is it just the boobs? Is that what makes everyone happy? No. Frank Frazetta is a master of the composition. What do I mean by that? If you noticed, I'll use this Sharpie pen. I'm not going to draw on it, but he essentially does this triangle composition format. See, and it's their directional movement, and I'm going to try to explain as best as I can as an artist. As the audience, we look first at probably, it's a very dull background. So we go to light brown, and then we travel down the arrow to the bigger, and it gets bigger, and it just helps the audience kind of directional movement. We know where it's going, and it takes in the full picture. You can't say that a Frank Frazetta painting makes you get lost in it. What do I mean by lost? You see how there's these pterodactyls right here, or I'm assuming they're pterodactyls. If these covered the whole painting, and were probably brighter, we would lose it, and then it wouldn't be a good composition at all. That's something as a professional artist, professional comic book artist, that is a step to always work on is your compositional skills, because without it, your pieces are going to look like crap. There's no way around it. A good composition means a good work of art, and Frank Frazetta is really good at that. Um, I'm probably going to talk a lot about composition this video. So, if any of you want to do a safe for work drinking contest about it, swig of Coke, I'm sorry. Every time I say composition, go right ahead. But no, this piece is from '67, and it is called Jongar Fights Back. And a lot of his figures look like Conan to me. I'm sure that's what he's reading, but just a great fantasy artist. Let's go into the next page. Here is Ponytail, and look, another just great composition with atmospheric perspective. Atmospheric perspective is a art term where the further stuff gets back in a composition, the fuzzy it gets. If you take a photo of a national park, the mountains in the back aren't going to look as crisp as the foreground. So he's using that pressure to get that effect. And just yeah, great. Great composition. Larger figure, foreground, smaller figure. So first, in the directional movement, her hair in the wind. We travel the tit, we go down it, we see that figure. He's just really good at making just solid pieces of art, standalone. It's not lacking anything in my opinion. You got your two solid figures. They're very strong. And what do I mean by that? Is they don't. How do I say this? They're just really well put together, really well illustrated. It's not just some random character you might see in a Jeff Darrow background, and I love Jeff Darrow. I don't consider that a complaint about him. Jeff Darrow's my favorite artist, but here it feels like there's so much strength, and they're so solid. Like these are the two characters. It feels like they're gonna start moving or something. We're about to see the continuation of their story. And using oil paints too. I don't know. I had to take one semester of oil painting as part of my art school program, and I did not like it. I don't like painting. I don't paint, but it's pretty cool to see him get all these colors that way. Um, Mixing colors in oil painting ain't the easiest thing to do. Let's move on. This is a great one. Stranded. 665, and yet again another triangle composition. He must love that. I'm sure there's an old art term for that. I'm sorry that I don't remember it off the top of my head. But yeah, like I said, good composition. Travel down from the stick. Oh look, or first of all, you go to the planet because the black background, you get this nice little color thing. You go to the planet, travel down the stick, bam, 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 bam. Look at all those figures. He's directing us as the audience to really, learn how to read his pieces. It's very powerful, very skillful how they can do it. I feel like it's not talked about a whole lot. I feel like Frazetta is not talked a whole lot from a younger crowd because there's been so many people who replicate his work, study under him, post mortem, So I feel like the original kind of gets lost in the weeds now, but what a great piece. Those blacks getting balanced with that beige color. Like he's a phenomenal colorist too, as an illustrator. And I think that's really cool and really different to look at on the channel. As mostly we look at comic book art, but here we're looking at specifically illustration art. A book cover, a poster, where he's not worrying about doing 30 pages in a month. He's worried about he might have spent years on this piece. Oil painting is a time consuming process. So he might spend a year and a half, or half a year. I don't know. I should probably look that up. I need to look that up. And figuring out what colors work. Because I guarantee you, these weren't the first color. He didn't just magically, put these colors in. It was perfect. He probably played with those colors a lot, and that's a testament to what we should do as artists is play around with the colors, see what works, see what doesn't. Maybe the whole figure was that bluish greenish, if you can see it, but he was trying to balance it, and he did really well. That orangey beige look really bounces well off this, I guess, Cosmo effect and the space itself. and it really strengthens the piece. I think with that, if it was all that green, all the figures would kind of blend into each other. But no, they all stand out really well. Even you can argue they get lost a little right there, but they don't. You'd have to be an ignoramus to not get what he was going for. But no, we're gonna look at every piece in this book, which we'll see how long it makes this video. How long memory do I have on? Oh yeah, we're good. Nope. This is probably the last video filmed on this camera, my phone, which is what I film all these videos on because I can't really afford a camera right now. Is going to the great factory in the sky, and the brand new phone. I've had this phone for 8 years, so I'm getting a brand new phone. So hopefully the quality gets better. How's this looking? So that's looking good. And here we get 67. So, if he started this in 65, it took him 2 years for any. I don't know that for a fact, but it is nice to assume. This one's called The Land of Terror. And some great directional movement, right? We're getting this caveman, what we'll call him, jumping, so we get the movement from the face. Oh, look, the bow and arrow, pow. Just great directional movement. Like I said, he's telling us as a viewer how to read his piece and doing it really effectively too. Another thing that's really cool about Frank Frazetta is he knows his figure. If you've been watching the past few videos, I've been really, really talking about Barry Windsor Smith. I'm sure BWS definitely looked at Frazetta, and they're both really good about the human figure. What are muscles? What are the veins? Even in this female figure, which we'll talk about some of his female figures soon. Hopefully, YouTube does not get mad at me for showing nudity, which this video is solely for educational purposes from a working artist, which maybe I have to put at the beginning of the video or in the description. I don't know. Um, but no, what a stylistic choice also doing like this is on a mountain, which you can tell by these jagged inorganic shapes, or I guess maybe I don't inorganic, and that color the mountain's the full composition, which maybe it wasn't supposed to be. Maybe this was actually supposed to be a sky and this was just the color of the paper or the canvas, but it works really good by having that. It really does zoom you into that center, and you're in the action immediately. You're not searching for what are the figures doing, why are they here. You know what I mean? So that's another tool you can use is what material are you using for your piece. You don't have to just get white nice sketch paper or Bristol board for every piece. One assignment we did in my last studio semester is we had to use a colored paper. So I was doing Russian constructionism, and I wish I had the piece, but the teacher kept it. Um, and if you know Russian constructionism, it's very bold. So I used red paper, and it really helped the design. So that's something that I've learned recently that you should do. Don't experiment with different forms of media. Try different colors paper, try collages. See what you can do. Let's see. This one is the Moon Maid, and I don't know how I feel about this one. Like it's great, but probably I don't know. I just feel like the figure gets a little lost. I think he might have did his darks a little too dark on this centaur, but that's just my personal opinion. I think it's one of the weaker pieces in this. Besides the Moon Maid herself, that figure's beautiful and very well done. The cloth coming, boom, perfect. It seems like it's like disintegrating as it goes back. The coloring's great up here. Atmospheric perspective. The craters are getting fuzzier. And just the use of light on the Moon Maid itself is incredible. Which I think there is a zoomed in, which I feel like it gets a little lost from that, but we'll just talk about his use of light's incredible. And I don't know if he had a model. I'd be real shocked if he did, or I don't know. But that's also something you can use is getting models. Getting them in poses like this, or maybe not like that, but figuring study your anatomy because it's very clear that he did, and it makes it work. If you don't know your anatomy, your pieces aren't going to they'll work, but you'll struggle with it. You'll fight with it. Whereas studying your anatomy, you know, you can go to your local universities. Sometimes they'll do free figure drawing sessions where you'll go in, draw for 2 hours. I think you might have to be enrolled or maybe not, or, see what community centers you have around, but definitely study your figure or just draw people. Draw someone at a coffee shop, draw someone at Walmart. I would say take photos, but I feel like that's not the correct thing to say. Don't just be taking random photos of people. Get a friend to pose, do a couple quick poses, get a family member, a partner, and that's how you get this. Seeing those leg muscles right there. He had to study the figure, the back, showing those back, the shoulder blades. The it's not deltoid, but whatever. Even like how do you the plumpness of a butt, if you know what I mean. He definitely studied that. This isn't something you just, oh, I know how to do this without ever looking. No, you study your figure, and he might have actually got a model to figure out how the lighting works. Get a lamp from up here, see how the lighting affects, you know, those butt shadows. You know what I mean? See how that works, and that's something you can do. Get a friend, pose them, put a light on them, sketch them, take photos, and then that's always in your artist inventory. You know, and that's something you should always be building on, and something I should be better about is just draw to draw. Put stuff in your inventory, put stuff in your toolbox, and then you'll always have it. Look, is there a close up of this one? There is a Conan piece. Like I said, he's super famous for his Conan, and yet again, a triangle composition. We go to the shininess of his helmet, and then we go down to him fighting the hordes of people. I don't really know much about Conan other than it's great. So, and just look at those muscle details, and we'll actually go to the zoomed in. They do get a little fuzzy when they're zoomed in. But you know what I mean? Just the impeccable muscle design, the impeccable just body movement, him bashing someone's head in and going back against, Lackey number 2. You know what I mean? It's great what he could accomplish. His weapons are phenomenal. I'm sure he also looked at medieval weapons and medieval armor. These look almost like the Huns' helmets, Attila the Hun and all that. So it's great. I just lost my train of thought. I just got mesmerized by it. Like I've been looking at this book a lot, and I keep getting just sidetracked. It's so beautiful. The face grimace, like I'm sure that was more figuring out what you look like when you grimace. And that's another easy way. Just look at yourself in a mirror, jot down what face lines do you make. So like I said, just build on your art inventory. Pose people, pose yourself. It's a easy way to get better as an artist. Study the figure, like Frazetta obviously did, because then later you'll be able to achieve pieces like this. That hyper detailed, you know, musculature, and that puts you above the average Joe, the person who says they're an artist. You know, this one's called Paradox, and yet see another 3. I'd say probably go to this figure first, and then we go out to the darker colors. Like look, that column's getting so lost. Atmospheric perspective, and that's what I mean. Usage of color can be very important too, because if these were probably the same color, it'd probably get a little lost. All that flesh. So no, we probably my pen. We first go to the hair. We probably travel up then down. With that directional movement of that magic. We got the columns in the back. We're getting that fantasy look. Like this is a Roman pillar. I believe it's a Doric pillar because it's boring. I think Dorics, or I don't know. It's been a while. But no, just great coloring. I don't think I finished, but figure out how you want to color. Color something 10 different ways. Because he could have done this lighter too, and this probably lighter, and he just figured out what works, what doesn't, and that's something you need to do. If you're gonna do something, do it 10 different ways. See what works, see what doesn't, and I guarantee you're gonna find a couple ways that you hate and a couple ways that are fantastic. And doing that really allows you to find the best way to do it. And that's something I only learned recently. Growing up as an artist, I thought as soon as you're your pencil touches the paper, you better finish something. Whereas now I take more time, I allow myself to mess up, I allow myself to experiment. And so yeah, I'll do the drawing three different ways, three different times, and just allowing myself to take that added breath. I think it's really improved my work. It has shortened my production speed, but I would rather have great pieces rather than half-assed pieces. You know what I mean? Oh, here's one of my favorites. Monster Out of Time from 72. I'm sure this is Conan fighting this alligator or crocodile. I think alligator because it's so stubby. But no, yet again, boop, boop, see, a triangle composition. I'm sure someone's going to be like, that's not even a thing. To me, it is, and that's how we learned it in art school. You know what I mean? But no, even here, it makes the triangle in the tides. And you just look at that. The sword coming out, directional movement. You probably go towards sword, you go down, bam, the eternal struggle. Man versus beast. It's great. I've been saying that a lot. This swamp tree getting lost in the background, he really shows how much of a painter he is. It's very painterly painting. Atmospheric pressure is very common in painting. I think that's what my professor told me, and I believe it because it makes things look more believable and it saves you some time. Like I said, oil painting takes a long, long, long time. So I'm sure atmospheric perspective is nice to use because then you don't have to worry about the tiniest details. You know what I mean? But no, that face grimace, I don't know if you guys can see it. It's probably, I don't know how big these pieces were. So I can't really say if he did that at small. Surely they're probably a lot bigger than just this book. Probably your standard 18 by 20 canvas. Um, so it's a little bit bigger, but it looks great, right? Not right like a question. Of course, it looks great. All the action of the water. You can see all the weight on that alligator. You see the weight. That leg going all the way back, pushing his weight into the alligator. You it's like he's been in this scene. He knows how that pose works, and he might have recreated the pose. He might have had some model with a sword just do this pose without the alligator. See how that leg bends, see how these arms bend. You know what I mean? I'm sure the underpainting, which is you do an underpainting before you paint. You use burnt cyan to it just looks like a sketch, and I'm sure the underpainting has the arms and that other leg back there. To get that look down. And that's something you can do too with tracing paper. It doesn't have to be painting. Tracing paper, you could do that arm, you could do that leg, on top, and then do another layer of tracing paper. It's essentially like layers, and Photoshop is the best way I've learned it lately. I learned that in my illustration class. In 2D, you can use tracing paper like layers, and that's really helped me get better. I have fallen in love with using tracing paper. At first, it was very taboo. Now, I love it. I don't think I could ever go back. But just look at all these muscles, not a real person, you know what I mean, who's all walking with these muscles, but it looks believable. And you achieve that by, again, learning that anatomy, studying that anatomy. I had a professor who you couldn't just be like, oh, I can't get this arm down, or hey, does this arm look good? You would have to specifically tell him what muscle you were doing, or else he wouldn't acknowledge it. So that's something you can do. Get an anatomy book, some flashcards, learn your muscles, learn what that glute is, and even the alligator's proportions. You can do that too. Go to a zoo, sketch. Sketching at a zoo is very, very fun and pretty cheap, or I know some zoos are overpriced. My zoo is like $12 to get in, and you can just sketch all day, and learning how that flesh works, which it's great. Let's move on. 52, the Norseman. Yet again, just direction going from. It's like I hope it was this one. The paradox. We got our main figure who's a lot lighter than the background, so we go to him first, and then we travel up with this pole, like how the paradox had his sword, or I guess just the hair. and the sword, because we can go the sword and go up with the magic. Whereas here we have the Norseman and we go up with his staff, and then we see probably Loki, I'm guessing, or something. So lead your audience. Tell them what you want them to look at. It's very important. It can also be called as a focal point, and I'm sure that this, this is obviously the focal point. The Norseman, drawing all that muscle and not having it look like the Norseman, or not be the focal point, crazy. But then he, lets us travel up the page and to see his other amazing art. You know what I mean? And also limiting the color palette in the foreground to, encircle that and really get that, look down. So just do that. Figure your compositional work, your coloring work, your focal point, directional line, it all comes into play. It's like making a pie. Get all those things down, bam, you got yourself a great piece, and it's going to look stunning. And coloring, get your coloring down. This one is called Escape on Venus, with another large lady and a phenomenal saber-toothed tiger. I love this guy. He's in a couple of pieces, I think like the same exact color pattern. I really like it. Yet again, the use of this kind of muted color encircles the two characters and really gets you. You probably go to the tiger first and then travel down, or, maybe opposite the figure, travel up. It's either or. There's not a correct way. There's not, oh, you can only do it that way. The mind just does it subconsciously, you know. But using these colors, it does it a lot quicker and a lot better. Even this foreground's muted, so you're kind of essentially cutting out all of that just for those figures, and you do get that, oh, this is intense, this is their world. You can't really say that this is just a random encounter on a Tuesday. No, she's probably gonna have to fight to the death to survive. She's escaping on Venus, this Venus saber-tooth, and even muting her legs a little bit, so you know butt up, you get that kind of, with the knife, directing you to the hair, you do kind of get an even better encircle. So that's something you can do too. Figuring out what colors, how can you use colors to drive the viewer to a specific part of your piece. It's done in black and white books also. Look at some Sin City artwork. Blood Cells. Here we got a Princess of Mars. See, triangle composition. I do think the figures get lost a little bit with that coloring of the, I guess that's Mars, or I guess maybe, I don't know. But it does work really good with the greens. The greens and the oranges fight each other. They're almost complementary colors, which are colors across from each other on the color wheel. Which green would be red, so that warm color, fighting against this color makes them pop, makes them stand out, and does bring attention to the figures. But I think these figures aren't, I feel like if they were maybe a little bit paler, like that is almost the same color palette as that. So that's why I say I think they get a little lost. But hey, he's using those greens really well, and that's something, study your colors. Figure out what colors work good with each other. Figure out what colors definitely don't work with each other. Don't be putting a green next to a yellow and make puke green, you know? Oh, here's a side piece. Is there a... Oh, we got a couple side pieces. I'm going to have to turn. How's that look? That'll be fine. This one is called John Carter and the Savage Apes of Mars. And here we just get that directional movement of John Carter just jumping into some apes. And, the red really helps it too. I'm sure your attention goes to the red first, then to the figure jumping. These gorillas are a lot lighter than these gorillas. So again, he's using that color, the atmospheric perspective of the background. It's this is probably one of his more intense pieces we've looked at so far. This one's from 1970, and he can fill the page but still make it work. And it's important because he's using these colors to darken them, so you are kind of focusing on this area right here. Don't put 1,000 characters on a page and expect them all to look great. You kind of have to have that focal point. Some artists can do 1,000 characters on the page, though. Jeff Darrow's a really good example. Jeff Darrow's a really good example. I'm sure I'll think of more. yeah, we'll think about Alex Ross can be good at it. I think some of his Kingdom Come pieces where there's 80 superheroes on a page is really good. So Jeff Darrow, Alex Ross, we'll think of more definitely. But no, just figuring out how to not lose your character, because that's what kills a piece. You know, if your composition's not working, it's gonna hurt that piece dramatically. It's gonna hurt your chances of at the end of the day, this is how he's making his money. Selling these to book companies. So put your best foot forward, I guess is what I should say. I don't know. Am I rambling? I feel like I'm rambling. Here we got trying to think, Thuva, Maid of Mars. And this time we get just a very different background approach. A solid black background with almost a solid white midground. The foreground's very colorful. I think that's a Cheshire cat. I don't know, that grin. If you agree with me, comment down below that. But I just see the Cheshire cat when I see that, which is my favorite book, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. And it's a really cool composition. The very earthy, cool, dark tones with just the kind of, they're still earth tones, but they're getting a lot lighter. You know what I mean? And then the directional movement of the sword. It's kind of almost like a square composition or a certain, I don't know. I'm probably going to stop talking about composition too much because I'm sure some neckbeard's like, oh my god, if he says composition one more time, I'm unsubscribing from this channel 5 times in a row. But I don't know. But no, what a great, look at that hair. He's even got the little Superman poof. That's impressive. I kind of suck at hair right now. I'm trying to get better. And look at the strokes on the cat, very painterly. It's like you can see the brush strokes. I hope you can see that on the camera. The claws having those highlights really just makes it look natural, makes it look great. The cat's leg muscles, I'm calling now BWS looked at this cat to make his tiger in the end of Weapon X. If you know, you know. But no, I think the use of a solid black background really helps it too. Because adding the stars, like we saw at the beginning of the book, I think would take away from this monumental castle scene. It is. If you need to describe sci-fi art, I feel like this is one of the first examples once you know it. An alien background, planets in the sky, space, some monster. This is sci-fi art in the 70s. Excuse me. And here we get some interesting pen and ink pieces. All right, yeah. This is to Tara's honor, and the headless body moved, took the hideous head in its hands, and set it on the shoulders. So this is probably, in a book illustration. The text was on one page, this was in it. So it is really cool to see how he does his ink skills. He can't be as painterly. Well, he can't be super painterly, but just very I don't know. It's cool to see how he does the figure, and cool to think how would he do this if he was painting this. And this was in 75, you know. And yet again, knowing how the shadows work here, the shadows work there, that's why I think he probably got some models and just, lit a light, see how it works. Even that shadow, ground shadows are a little bit harder to fake, I feel like. Yeah, and here's another one. And see, figuring out how those back muscles, kind of, how do they look in shadow? How do they work in light? Figuring that's really important. And then the weight, putting that weight on that means on this leg means this leg is going to be further back. That's called contrapposto. Shifting your weight. It's really important. It actually improves your art a lot. Don't just draw all your figures standing straight upright. Move them around a little bit. Put their weight on one leg. Put their weight on another. I think if you haven't done it yet, it'll really improve how you see your art. And here we got a very bland background, which I think if he did paint this, all of this, I think you wouldn't see. You'd probably see the very outline of this thing, but the rest of this, I don't think you would see. So it is cool to see how he does a background when he's not painting, and it's very minimalistic. It's not nearly as grand as his paintings at all. So these were probably done a lot quicker, obviously compared to his paintings, they're in black and white. This one is called Sheba, and it is from 75 as well. So this might have been a standalone piece, not a book piece. And this is some famous pose, right? Am I crazy? But here, look, a triangle composition. We're going from the hands raised of the figure down. Oh, look, all in black, contrasting than the maiden, who has her armor, but then just the full white of these legs, really works. A great contraction or juxtaposition between the two figures. Also, no background, it's white. I think if he added a background, then this character would get lost. If they put more detail in it, like gave her like some, maybe she is wearing knee armor or leg armor, but if they added that, I think this figure would get lost because of how detailed this chest plate is. So sometimes less is more. If you do a really detailed, top, that doesn't mean the whole body has to be detailed too. Which isn't the rule. Like I said, I am a working artist. I'm not going. I'm not the end all be all for questions, right? It's not looking. Yeah, let's move that up a little bit. But that's just part of my theory. There's artists who have so much detail in a work that it's crazy. Jeff Darrow again. Look at like the first 5 pages of Hard Boiled. Frank Quietly. Look at We Three. Doro by Q. It's a manga. Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein Alive. So I'm just saying what I'm saying. But we do get a contrast, like his, I guess not the cape, but the bottom part flaring out like that. Works really good with the top being all in dark. So figuring out your lights, figuring out your details. Like I said, do it 10 different ways. Use tracing paper, use layers. You know what I mean? This one is Kubla's Anguish, which I just see Conan, which it might be Conan. But no, look at starting from this vulture, you perfectly get a triangle. It looks great. Again, the arm muscles, the leg muscles, he's really good at body language too when he does it. We get that this Conan is sad. He's probably just lost a friend. Even the dead look just completely dead. The rigor mortis setting in of the hands. He probably had a bow and arrow in that hand because it's like he's holding the I don't know, the string, the draw. He's drawing a bow back. That head looks like a stereotypical decapitated head. So he is selling that body language, and part of that's the pose obviously, but then the shading done on the face. The shading done on that face, no detail in the face. We're not seeing a big old eyeball stand out versus just a quick line for that. In the mouth open, he really sells those emotions, and like I said, sometimes less is more. And I feel like this is a great example of that. Without a background, too, yet again, the vultures is enough. We totally get what this is. This is a battlefield. There was death here. There was, people died, and the vultures are coming in to circle that. And I feel like everyone knows that setting, So just work with the background or don't work with the background. See what works for your art. We've seen Frazetta do amazing things with a colored background, and we're seeing him do amazing things without a background. So figure out what works, figure out what you want to do. Every piece is going to be different. Every series you do is going to be different. You know what I mean? I'm looking at a Frank Miller 300 piece right now where there is no background, but it looks great. It's just the Spartans marching forward. And then look at this insane thing. This one's called The Mad King. Whew, my jaw's getting tired. We're getting some great colors with the red of the cape, the black of the horse. I don't know what he's doing because the fighting's happening this way, but yet he's charging backwards. I've been trying to place it, with the castle in the background, some great cloud work, just I love looking at Frazetta pieces. I wish I could own one, but that is so expensive. So pretty cool to see this, and just figuring out how a horse works. He's done quite a few horses in this book, so I'm sure he studied horses because I don't know about you. Horses are hard to draw. They're like bony, but not bony. Like their legs are so sophisticated, and then their heads look so just weird to me. So it is very, he might have looked at the same horse too, because they're all stocky. They're all big. I'm sure there was some draft horse. This one is called Gulliver of Mars. I just see Donald Trump when I see this face. I don't know about you guys. That's not a political take or anything. It's just who he looks like to me. And then that orange hair doesn't help it either. Um, ooh, look, triangle. These two monsters fighting. We go down to the figure. He's running away. He's just mastering that composition, and it appeals. You guys might be wondering, why do I keep bringing that up? Because and this is from '64. That's the only thing I don't like about this book is it's not linear. We just jump from 75 back to 64. But back to the composition. It unsubconsciously gets audiences. They're gonna like your book more and more when you master that composition. It just works. It's hard to explain. There's like a chemical in our brain that just makes it work. It makes sense. You're doing the work for us when you get the composition done right. We're not spending time and time again looking at the piece and getting lost in it. Where if we do get lost, we're probably not going to like the piece a whole lot. Whew, excuse me. Here's a great Tarzan piece, which I think this might be the only Tarzan in this book. A great using these two trees to center in these two figures. What a great way to just get that action going. He's great at that. It's like he's not pulling his punches, because that's another thing with illustration. You don't have time to set up that story. You need to sell it now, which I think is a testament to why his compositions are so good. He needs to sell this scene, this book cover. You have to get that. Oh, Tarzan fights gorillas. He's a man against nature. And that's something that you should strive for in your artwork. Don't waste a panel. You know what I mean? Don't make some sad, little piece of art that you're like, I don't get the point of this. Make stunning pieces. Figure out what works, what doesn't. How does the composition work? Just study the composition. And he's doing that using all these branches, all these colors, the colors pointing almost down. So we get that. The gorilla being up over Tarzan, pointing at Tarzan. It's a perfect balance. One side's not too heavy. And what do I mean by too heavy? Let's say there was no trees here, all trees here. Then this side's super heavy, the balance is off, and it might, the gorilla might get lost in a little bit. Whereas with this perfect balance, it centers these figures in. Bam, there's the action. Roll credits. This one's called Golden Girl. Let's just skip that one. I don't know. Oh, never mind. We got a detail of it. I don't know. This one feels a lot more different than his others. Let's just skip it for YouTube's sake, and also for my mouth's sake. Oh, look, is that He-Man? Just joking. It does kind of look like him, though. Again, the power of Grayskull. This one's called Against the Gods. What a perfect way to get movement. Lightning strikes a sword. You can't really go past it farther than that. Yet again, though, he knows his figure. He knows the muscles. He's selling it. It's how it works. Yet again, study anatomy, because then you can convince people you know how it works. Don't be a Todd McFarlane who draws muscles on muscles, and expects it to work, because then you're just going to get made fun of. Study that anatomy, unless you want to do a Todd McFarlane. I'm not hating on him. I can't draw figures like that, or I should say I don't want to draw figures like that. I'd rather do this. Know the anatomy true, do it true, and it convinces people. Whereas Todd McFarlane or Rob Liefeld, people are going to be saying you can't draw feet. This is my favorite piece in this entire book, probably. This is Madame Derringer. Derringer's this little gun she has. This might be my favorite Frazetta piece other than some of his dinosaurs. You know what? No, this is my favorite Frazetta piece. I'm going to go on the record. I don't know what it is about it. Just the it's a great figure, that dark dress. works really good with the white background and the almost pale brown horse. The lights, the highlights on the back. It works really good. The colors really go well with each other, so it just makes a great solid piece where you know what it is immediately. It's a girl on a horse. You're not wasting time looking at background. Although the horse is kicking up dust, it just works. And like I said, this might just be maybe some scrap canvas he had, because it's got some marks, so that won't surprise me. So just this could have just been a sketch he started with. It turned out really good. Hey, sometimes those are the best things you can do. I know that feeling. Whew, excuse me. But no, this is my favorite piece. Just a great composition. It's small. The colors really going against each other, or not against, but just working really well with each other. The very coy look on the woman's face. The pose. I love westerns. It's a great piece. I need to find a high quality print of this so I can put it on my wall, because I really, really, well, like I just said, it's my favorite piece, and that's why. Great composition, great colors, great pose. Even the boniness of the horse's face is done really, really well. And I'm sure you had to look at some westerns for this. This one's called Combat, which just reminds me of some, GI War DC books. Just what a great pose. This World War II, trying to save this poor guy, blasting people. What a great pose. Coloring's real weird, but it works for it. This is a battlefield. There might be a aircraft carrier, blowing up in the background, and that's why you can tell they're in water. He's selling it really well. Very minimalistic. I feel like that's maybe something I haven't talked about. His colors are minimalistic, but yet they work, and you know what's happening. You're not. I feel like you obviously know they're in water. You know, they're they're just in it. Those blues really sell it. The whites, it's like they're running through it. When you kick some water, the clouds in the background. Yeah, it's a crimson sky. It's just a very, I feel like, iconic motif for like a World War II comic movie. The helmet, the shirtless Marine, blasting his way with almost a Thompson. It just works. This one's called Beast of Venus, so another beast. We got a pig fighting a saber tooth with these two on it. Um, This one's, I feel like, a little bit more experimental because of this tree. It's going in the background, covers the figures. It's just a broader range. It's not up close like the other ones are. Just, I don't know. I'm not saying it looks bad or anything. I'm just saying it's different from the other pieces we looked at. And that's why. It's not super tight like the other ones are. It has a background that's not in, like, it does get fuzzier as it goes back, but it's not just an outline of a castle or a pillar. You know what I mean? So there we see him utilizing just not a super tight composition, but filling the page, be it making it look good. It's two stories. The animals fighting and then these two. You wonder, well, what are these guys up to? What are these guys up to? Who's gonna win? This is life or death for them, but what's this for them? Was the lion about to attack them, but then the pig saved them? So there's some added benefit of using not as a tight composition. You can, when you fill the page up, you can tell two stories at once, where usually he fills the page up with one story, but here we're getting two. And he might not have been able to do that if he did zoomed in on, if the cat was going up the tree, it'd probably just be these two figures and the cat. You know what I mean? This one's called Gold Queen. I just see Icarus. The story of Icarus. That's all I see. Great little coloring. Very bright. Goes out to the wings. They get darker. The legs get lost a little bit. This one's from 72, and it's real thin. You can see almost the seams of the canvas. I almost said Kansas. But no, carry on, my wayward son here. But no, so this one, I wonder if it's incomplete, because it's like the white of the canvas itself, and the brush strokes right there on the background. Looks really cool. Here's another one of my favorites. Go figure, right? Westerns. Bucking Bronco. Just a great Western scene, I wonder if this was a series he did. This Western, Lady Derringer and then this Bucking Bronco. Not having a background. There is a little bit, we do get the other cowpokes and probably the stall watching them trying to tame this buck, or this Bronco. I'm sorry. Um, with some great effects, you can see the brushstrokes and his tail going crazy, with the smoke or the dust also. Just it sells it really good. He's very painterly, very good. And that's something we don't talk about. Oh, I just broke my thing. A whole lot on the channel is painterly. He is selling. You see the brushstrokes. Some people like that. Some people don't. I like it. Um, I like it a whole lot. It works. And then you get the weight of the horse too. Him jumping. You see the kind of the frailer top part, but then the weight of these big old thighs in the back. You probably, to me, I can hear them land. That big thud. And that's pretty cool for an artist to be able to do, is get that sound going in your hand. You hear the spurs just spin. So pretty cool. And again, we start from the hand, bam, bam. We're traveling through the hand, through the bronco, and the end is the cowpokes in the back. So yet again, directional movement, and it's not stagnant. What do I mean by stagnant? Is there's some art you can look at and close your eyes, and it's not going to move any. But here, like I said, you can hear the thunk of the horse when he's about to land. It's very movement filled. It's very just energetic. You can't say many. I almost said Barry Windsor Smith. You can't say many Frazetta pieces are stagnant. Here is more sci-fi than normal, beyond the 4-star. Everyday Go's got a gun. And yet again, I've said yet again so much. I need to stop that. Using the color or lack of color to enclose. It's like making a snapshot, and that works really cool because you got to think this might have been the text of the book. Beyond the forest star. So don't put all your detail on the top because he might have been lettering this too. I don't know, probably not. Um, who knows? Beyond the forest star. That's probably why they're all like this. I guarantee you. So then you do get that snapshot. So it serves two purposes. Snapshot this to get it intense, that pow, and then having the text on top. Downward to the earth. Pretty cool. Just the red, the greens, and the blues. Looks really cool. This is from 70. Pretty cool. Not too much to say about this one. I feel like this one's more abstract than normal. We do get atmospheric perspective. If you need an example, horses clearly seen, right? Back in the background, can barely see them. Atmospheric perspective, things get fuzzy. The return of the mucker. Like I said, directional movement. You can, or not directional, but just energetic. You can feel that hat's about to fall. The horses, that weight, the neigh as he falls. Just great. That arm muscle, that the expression of the homeboy's face getting choked out, just works really good. And it's a skill that's really hard to learn. And yeah, you're probably gonna have to be doing art for 30, 40 years before you get to this level, um, unless you're a wonderkin. It is really cool to see that the skill that he's doing. Because what we just saw stuff from 60, now this is 75. That's 15 years time improvement. Putting the work in the studio. You only get that if you work in the studio, though. Don't just make one thing a year, or let me rephrase that. Make one thing in a week, and then you don't make another thing for 2 years, and then you make it in a week. You got to be in the studio. Try to draw for at least 30 minutes a day. Do something. Don't just sit on your lazy butt, which I've been doing because it's still winter break for me. So I've been playing a little hooky on my art duties. But no, just work hard. Look at this beautiful, not Conan, but Tarzan piece. Hanging off the tree. Just without the bright colors, you do go to that fortress pretty quick. Using that atmospheric perspective too. It's all fuzzy. This is almost like Wally Wood, right? Just some sci-fi guy with a gun. Looks great. It's very sketchy too. I wonder if this was like a pinup for a Comic-Con or a convention he did. Because look at that leg. It's almost like you can see the pencils still. I need to do some research on this piece, see where it comes from. I guess we're back to some. This one's called Duel. This one's very pencily too. Hmm. Or it just could have just been in his portfolio, stuff he'd show to people. It's very important to have a well put together portfolio. Don't just send people some Instagram photos, you know, or screenshots of your Instagram, or have a portfolio together professionally. What I do is I go on PowerPoint, put 10, 15 pieces in, put when I made them, what materials I made them, what they are. And this could have been in them. He just had a bunch of sketches, a bunch of finished pieces, because you gotta remember this was before the age of digital storage, so I don't know how you'd keep a portfolio back then. Maybe that's the only way, with some sketches or some, I don't know the quality of copies back then. Look at that, Kubla Khan. Yeah, I'm gonna check in on that for us to see if these were some portfolio pieces. I feel like this one's very famous. This one's called the Huntress. Boop, boop. And then the lines are on two different heights, so you get that direction. You kind of, it's asymmetrical but symmetrical at the same time. Closes on the figure. You study the figure. You study the lines. Looks great. Love a great saber-tooth tiger drawn, and no color or no background, which I think adds to it. I love the stuff with no backgrounds. It just has this special look to me that I think a lot of pieces just people can't pull off anymore. Because in art school, everyone's like, "Oh, you gotta have a background. You can't just leave that without a background." Yet he makes it work really well. And then the last piece, the cover, the Dark Kingdom. Not a great scan of it. Just phenomenal. I think my voice is going out, so I think we're gonna skip this one. I'm gonna cut to my favorite one and just look at it as I finish the video, because I can do that because I make these videos with my co-host. But no, thanks for watching. This is our longest video back since we took our hiatus, but this has been going great. Our newest video, or not our newest, but the video all about Barry Windsor Smith is our highest viewed video of all time now, at 62 views as I'm recording this. That's incredible. I made a post about it. Thank you guys. That means the world to me. We've been doing phenomenal on art since we've been back, and it's been fun. Yeah, I think I am losing my voice. So I better wrap this up. Yeah, if you like this video, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. We've been doing great, and I want to boost our subscribers too. So, keep checking us out, see what we've been doing. We post every Friday for sure. You can check me and my co-host Arts. Our Instas will be in the description. And thank you guys. It's been fun. I love looking at this book. I'm going to have to track down the other books in this collection. Let me know what your favorite painting is. And from Paper Cuts Included to you, make more.